Anyway, welcome everyone to the June meeting. Have I got any apologies? I think everybody's here today. Can I have confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of May as circulated to be taken as read and confirmed? And Councillor Crispin? We don't have a presentation today. Oh, sorry. Can I have I've got to move. Can everyone, those in favour say aye?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. There's no presentations today. Calls for declarations of interest, gifts received and conflicts of interest. There'll be something in the confidential meeting, so I'll vacate the room then and Sean can take over. Now we have the mayoral minute, and that is on page 4, and that is communication from Glen Innes Sovereign Council. And the mayor's recommendation for that is that Guida Shire supports Glen Innes Sovereign Council in encouraging local government, New South Wales and regional groupings to develop the statewide resources and shared frameworks required to support the mental health and psychological safety of elected representatives. Further, that Guida Shire lodges a submission to New South Wales parliamentary inquiry into the illicit tobacco trade, supporting the approach outlined by Glen Innes Sovereign Council. Can I have a move or anything?
You just move it. You can put it to vote, or people may want that.
Does anyone want to talk about them?
Almost about, yeah. I think we should. Does that mean we're banning cigarettes making the public area? No. If you read the report, it specifically says that we don't do that.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And the other thing I had with this is, if we have any more cigarette shops coming to the Shire, why don't we just refuse to let them operate?
You can't.
Why
We
not?
don't have that
Well,
authority.
because it's just a retail shop, and you actually don't need approval to change from one retail to the other retail. This is a problem that federal government's created by overtaxing tobacco products and making it attractive for the
I agree.
people to move in.
So,
And it's been left up to the states to try to regulate. So the supporting the Glen Innes approach is actually supporting the state government to improve the laws relating to the sale of tobacco products.
I just wonder if you
Which it outlines in here.
refuse to let these people operate, that it might send a message up the tree.
It would, except that we haven't got the power to
Do it.
So starting on the 1st of July, there is a new licensing scheme in place for all tobacco retailers, and it's automatically applied for supermarkets, convenience stores. All legitimate retailers will have to have this new licence. It's not being given to the operators who operate underneath the gift shop loophole, which is what they're all operating under at the moment. So in Warialda on the 1st of July, the service station, the IGA and the news agency will be the 3 licensed premises to sell tobacco in Warialda. The tobacco shop won't be, and that gives more power to the New South Wales Police to actually close that venue on a standard search, a retail search. They don't need to have a report. They can just walk in and do a retail search. If they find one thing that is illegal underneath them not having a licence, then they're able to confiscate everything that's in store. It still doesn't let them do cars or storage sheds, but on the 1st of July it will change. So it should make it easier for local police to disrupt the disruptors.
Yep. So this is just supporting, if you read through, John. Yeah. Any more questions? I'll put a motion through that we move this. Okay, then
Actually,
can I move that, please? And can I have those in favour say aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 6.2 on page 10. The Mayor's recommendation that Guida Shire Council endorses the IPWEA 2025 Local Roads Congress Commute, which is all lined out there for everyone that read. Any questions? So my recommendation is that Guida Shire Council endorses the IPWEA 2025 Local Roads Congress Commute. Those in favour say aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Then we move along to Officers' Report and page 15.
You'll notice in this report, the changes to the way that we operate the council meetings was done for a 6-month trial, which is today is the last meeting of that trial. So in the July meeting, you'll be deciding whether you want to reintroduce, for example, committee meetings, so you have 2 meetings a month, or stay with the way that you're doing it, only 1 meeting a month, and keeping that second Thursday of the month as a date where you can have other special interest things if required. Part of that was also dealing with items by exception, which is what this report is about. And you'll note that in the report, I say that the staff are now seeking individual comments on this matter for discussion at the July meeting, whether or not it has actually worked productively for you. So if you could seek out Leah and let her know whether you're happy with the way it's been working or not, and whether you want to change the way it's working. You'll notice most of the reports that come to the meeting are for information. They aren't actually seeking a decision from you, but some councillors like to withdraw those items so you can actually have discussion around what you're reading in the report, which is perfectly legitimate. It's up to you. I know that some councillors are probably keen to go back to having committee meetings. It's going to be completely up to you whether you want to do that or not. So are there any items that you want to be withdrawn for discussion?
Scott? Yeah.
Yes, we listen to all of them.
Yeah, you just want to, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I just...
Yes.
If you want to have a bit of a discussion amongst ourselves or whatever about what you feel with the meetings, even if we had my opinion with last council, we met twice a month, and I felt we were more in touch with what was going on, but totally up to you. Even if those that are working, if that second Thursday where we used to have the committee meetings, if it's suited to do an afternoon meeting or something, but open to ideas and what everyone thinks of that. But I don't know, my opinion, when we used to meet the committee meeting and the council meeting, we seemed to be more in touch with each other and be able to work through things. That's just, but I'm open to discussion, that even if you want to have it later or give me a call or something, whatever you think. And my thing with this is just my opinion, with all these reports is we've got them to read and look through, and I think the staff take a lot of trouble putting them together and to provide us with the information in what's happening. So it's just my opinion, but I like to go through them and see if there's any comments of the hard work the staff are doing when they put these together, but open to all discussions. Thank you. So the officer's recommendations that items have not been withdrawn will be adopted collectively in this resolution. So we're going to withdraw them all and talk about them all. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Sherman and Councillor Crispin. Those in favour that say aye. Thank you. We move on to item 7.2 on page 16, which is Max's organisational management, executive services report. Thank you. Any
This is one of the reports that's been withdrawn for discussion.
Just one, with the riverfront project,
Yes.
the pontoon is going to be in the same spot, or is it going to be in a little bit different spot, or you're not?
It's basically in the same spot.
But it's,
Slight alteration because it's currently being designed at the moment, although the design has actually been completed and accepted. But it's designed in a way that it can be absolutely removed during any potential flood event so that it isn't washed away.
right.
But it'll operate in much the same way in normal settings, with just go up and down, and two ramps going down,
Right.
essentially in the same spot. I think the Silvercon Conservation Service have done a good job.
It looks really
Yeah, it
good.
looks really good.
Very good. It's certainly taken a lot longer than we had anticipated.
Was that due to the water, like, coming out of the
Yeah,
dam,
yeah,
high
and,
flow?
Like, and also, they were called away to other tasks because of the extensive damage along the coast in the last flooding a couple of years ago, or recently with the Alfred.
Do we have, like a rough estimate when it should be finished by, or?
End of the month, didn't it say?
Yeah, well, as I said, the design has been concluded for the pontoon, that's the last element to go in.
Yeah.
And it's about to be installed, so yeah.
I think they
Yeah.
said the end of the month somewhere, I read in there.
Yeah, it says end of June.
Yeah, I know they've, down near Rod King's there, I noticed they'd done work apparently 20 or 25 years ago, Chapo told me, and it's not quite the same as what they've done, but it's the same sort of size rocks, and I was quite amazed that they're still there, but obviously withstood quite a few floods, so.
No, well, it's still come before a large part of the time taken was the investigation of how best to stabilise the bank. And I think that effort in planning is going to produce a better outcome. One of the sad things is we couldn't save that last tree that was there, and it had to be removed simply because it was going to fall over anyway, so.
It was all hollow and it had to have a 4-metre barrier around it if we kept it.
Too dangerous.
Any more questions on this report? I just want to say something with the Guida Career Start program. If you've all read that, how beneficial it is. And Sean and I are going to Burke this afternoon for a BROC meeting, and we've got to do a presentation on all this tomorrow there, and which we'll share with you when we come home, those that want to see it, because it's quite good to see with all these careers starting job opportunities and how Guida's doing well out of it and able to have staff. Any more questions? Can I have a mover and a seconder of that report, please? Councillor Dixon and Councillor Bishton. Those in favour say aye. So we now move on to Organisation and Community Services report on page 26, and Leah Daly will take questions on this.
First of all, apologies for the way, I don't know how I missed it, the way the staff meeting and the recent meeting for the Nauru report has the language used in it. It's just obviously a cut and paste from the actual meeting, so that will never happen again. So you've got an apology because it's much more.
Look at that, Nelly.
Yeah, all of it. I'm mortified. I was reading through it last night and I don't know how I missed it. But I did. So
It's
I
all good.
apologise. Very informative, but probably too informative for your level. Short of that, the only thing I wanted to mention was the volunteer recognition and commendation for the op shop in Vingra. They're still kicking goals. And the fact that the Gravesend Hall Committee, this is Susie Weber's section of the report, they have come to life, and Susie's been working with them, working on the old hall with the constant reminder that countries are going to support two halls in Gravesend, that they're on their own, but they're being supported as a section 255 committee. And the other thing I'll bring to your attention is the will be youth exchange program, and I've had reports that it's again going to be a lovely pool of young people that are coming to see us, and us are also going to Sydney. So happy to answer any other questions. I could talk for many hours on the content of the great things we do in community services.
How are the upgrades going at Norwich?
They're wonderful. Certainly. Sorry, they're great. They're going well. I had a tour the other day, and they were laying the floor coverings, and the fellows laying the floor coverings were being assisted by the people in the dementia wing, which was very entertaining. But it's going to be hugely beneficial to the residents and for the future growth of the building service.
I went for a tour on Monday and it looks so good, yeah, especially the courtyard, and they're going off to buy pots and water fountains and everything, and the way it's all set out is much more family friendly, so families can go in and cook with the residents and things like that. It looks great, and all the residents were having lunch and happy for a chat and everything.
Sharon
like that.
would love to show you all around at the next Warialda meeting before it, so if you're interested, we can plan for that to happen.
Yeah, sounds good. And they're really excited because they've actually got awardsmen started, so that's a big bonus. Yeah.
So Rui's going very well generally.
Any more questions on this report?
Just a comment on the visitors at the Warialda Visitor Information Centre. I think it's a reflection on the new managers we have at the caravan park.
Yeah.
It's growing every month. And it's noticeable in town how many tourists are now stopping.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Great job.
Would you agree the town itself looks more inviting?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yes.
I've seen it, yeah, for sure.
Makes you want to stop, I'd imagine.
Can't believe March was so not busy in both towns in terms of visitors. It's always a
Yeah,
busy
it just
time.
doesn't seem right by the amount of buzz that was in both towns, does it? It's also good to see that the camping donations collected by the rangers, I always like to see that figure, because you do have people saying, oh, you know, they're just free camping, blah, 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 whereas they're actually, you know, putting in the donation box, and they do spend lots in town. So I think that's something good to take away if anyone says anything.
Looking on Russell Free Camping Facebook page, they're always encouraging others to donate.
Yeah,
When they see a box, they say,
yeah. So that's good too. And we see that the mobile daycare and that is at capacity and going well as well, which is a benefit to.
The only real problem we have, and it's starting to present itself as a bit of a risk, is recruiting qualified children's services workers. The staff that we have come under considerable extra stress because of the long daycare that we've implemented, and there's just simply, no matter how much we advertise, there's simply nobody trained out in the community. So we're looking at growing our own, but it's a slow process. So it's certainly something that's on the radar.
Back in the, I circled it somewhere where it says about the social media ads for it. That was one of my questions, because it says how many clicks on it somewhere, and it seemed to be a lot, but obviously a lot of people are clicking on it, but there's no outcome out of it. I circled it somewhere.
I think consistently with the rest of the state and probably the country, there's a lack
Yeah.
of people trained in children's services. It's been recognised by TAFE and other organisations, and there's starting to be some scouting around and getting people to do the course, but it's certainly not come through on the coalface yet.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions on that one? Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Bishton and Councillor Crispin. Those in favour say aye. Thank you. We now move on to item 7.4 on page 59, the technical services report, and any questions for Alex?
Please. There's some updates on the PFAS issue on Warialda that only came to light yesterday in a meeting with New South Wales Health and Department of Climate Change, Energy and Water. If people would like an update on that, I'm happy to provide one. The private bore testing, I think we got to somewhere around 35 private bores in Warialda tested for PFAS. We really hope that with that testing we'd see one bore of very high concentration and then bores around it of lowering concentration, and we'd find a smoking gun. If anything, we've gone in the opposite direction, and the waters are just murkier. There have been, pardon the pun, there have been detects of PFAS basically in every corner of Warialda. The Hospital Park area is still very much the area of higher concentration. Need to stress that there's absolutely no need for any hysteria, because the bores that we're pumping out of have still continued to test free of PFAS. We have a regular testing regime, and since December, when we emptied the northern reservoir and have only been operating from the Saleyards bore and the Grogene Road bore, we have been PFAS free in the town water supply.
Is that for being at a different level to lots of private bores?
Yes, that was one of the conversations that was had yesterday. Given that we've got the Saleyards bore testing no traces of PFAS and bores surrounding it testing with traces of PFAS, the suggestion is that there are aquifers at different strata, and we might be in a deeper aquifer than the private bores surrounding. That would make sense because we've got greater capability when we're drilling for a municipal bore, greater budget than if somebody's drilling for a private bore. We're currently back at the drawing board with respect to a location for a new bore. We still have a guarantee, a verbal guarantee of funding from the Department of Climate Change, Energy and Water that bore will be funded. Now we're looking at locations outside the Warialda township, most likely to the north, somewhere around the Burunda subdivision. That would kill a couple of birds with one stone. It would get us a bore in a location that we can be sure is free of PFAS and will remain free of PFAS in the future, and would also make servicing that area of Warialda and our industrial land with some sort of reticulated water a cheaper exercise if we ever chose to do that. Any questions on PFAS?
Are the levels in the private bores, Alex, or it's all over the place?
All over the place. I don't have the exact figures. I think there were only 7 bores that tested above the current drinking water guidelines. There are new drinking water guidelines that are expected to be coming in sometime around August, and they are much, much, much lower levels of PFAS permissible. But still the majority of the private bores tested below even the revised much lower levels.
we toyed around with the idea that because we'd stopped using the hospital, that we were emptying the PFAS, and it was like, now we're not using it, it's spread out. Is that not something that's been supported by anyone?
Hydrogeology is such a complex case that at the moment there's not really enough knowledge regarding possible multiple aquifers at different levels and how things are spreading. The view that since we've stopped pumping from Hospital Park Bore, and we've seen detects further and further away from the park, supports our theory that by drawing from that bore we were taking PFAS out of the aquifer.
So, Alex, I should be asking this not, but, and even if the right term is leaching, but can we expect that the PFAS will find its way through to the deeper bore?
It's entirely possible, and given that we're talking chemicals that don't biodegrade, that they're called forever chemicals for a reason, then there would be an expectation that eventually we might see some levels. It could be decades away, it could be centuries away, but that's one of the reasons that we're targeting a bore outside the township.
Yep.
I have to say that we've got it a whole lot better than some of the other communities that have got PFAS issues. The fact that we've got bores that we can draw from that have no PFAS is an absolute godsend. You look at some of the other communities where they have no other options, other ones where they've got monitoring bores where they're basically watching the PFAS come closer and closer and closer to the township. It's a really serious issue. And for some context on what an unsafe level of PFAS is, if you put a 20-litre drum of PFAS into Copetown Dam, the levels are above the drinking water guidelines. The levels are in parts per trillion. It's such minute amounts. But the reason that they are minute amounts is once you start consuming water with PFAS, that PFAS accumulates in the system. But again, I stress that Warialda is currently safe and looks to remain safe well into the future. The work that we're doing now is more about securing the future and ensuring that any work that we do with respect to the development of a new bore is future-proof itself.
Do you have any ideas of a timeline in terms of new bores?
We could be test drilling next month, and we were ready to test drill next month, but we're just taking a pause to have a head scratch and make sure that with the new information that's come to light from EPA's testing, we're not throwing away all the money from the test bore drilling and the associated testing. That's about a $180,000 exercise just for the test bore. So we want to target and be fairly sure that that $180,000, which is funded by DQ, but it's money all the same, and it's public money. We want to make sure we're putting our best foot forward.
Yeah. And then in terms of the infrastructure?
That would be more likely if we're out of town and we have to bring a rising main a kilometre or 2 kilometres back into Warialda. That's not a small project. We need to avoid Telstra infrastructure. We need to make sure we're not encroaching on roads. We need to make sure that the infrastructure itself is in a road reserve, so we're not having to go through the path of compulsory acquisition. That looks more like a 6 to 9 month project.
And our current water drawings and capacity is okay?
Yeah, it is. The Salyards bore is still running fairly significant times, 20 plus hours. Now that we're in colder months, it's certainly less of a demand than it was from December onwards when it was running almost non-stop. getting a half-hour break every couple of days. But no, presently what we've got is keeping up. None of that was in my report. But I thought, given that it was discussed yesterday,
No, that's
it
good.
was worthy of sharing. Happy to take any questions on anything road related. I have got a bunch of points here, but I've probably spoken enough. One thing I will point out in the report is that we've purchased a Kenworth tipper truck and a triaxle trailer that will be, excuse me, will be linked to the landfill. We have a track loader, and we will be assigning a staff member to that truck and trailer and the track loader to be attending all our remote landfills with a much greater frequency than we have to date. I know whenever we go to community meetings in our remote communities, that landfills are a recurring issue, and we've recognised that something needed to change. What needed to change is having the right equipment, having the right size track loader, something that can pick up if there are mattresses or wire or something at the landfill that needs to move and would be better placed in Bingara or Warialda, something that we can then chuck in the back of a tipper truck and bring back to Warialda or Bingara. So that should, once in place, reduce the complaints that we're getting regarding our remote landfills. It's one of those things where we've just, the community has wanted it, it's cost money, and we're going to have to spend money to deal with the issue.
When you're talking about mattresses, there seems to be a run of people I keep getting all these photos on my phone of people dumping mattresses at Gravesend and Binagai, and yeah, so there must be a run of everyone's getting rid of their mattresses at the moment.
That's season.
Pardon?
That's season. Gastro.
I was a bit sad to read that we're unsuccessful with the grant for the showground with the thing. Sorry, I'm in the wrong bit. No, that's right. Yeah. With the PA system and that breaking, like I thought we might have been lucky when Brendan was there and it didn't, there was no PA system working at all. But anyway, we were unlucky in that.
I don't think that it's a wasted effort. Typically, these grants come around in cycles, and we would have an opportunity to resubmit and perhaps fine-tune what we've got. So I wouldn't call it dead. Certainly, didn't get a tick this time round, but we
Hopefully next time.
Yeah.
And is the truck wash, I mean, that's great, but that's up again, isn't it?
I don't know if that's a record or if it's just on the heels of our record usage. That doesn't reflect the increased pricing that we have resolved. The Avdata people who manage all of the transactions associated with the truck wash were advised last week to increase the price. So I think next month we should have a reflection on how that has impacted usage.
But we are moving to open the gate for 24 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the new price.
Yeah, it'll be mid-seasonal too, depending on what's not going to be a certain time.
Just while we're on Alex's report, I'd like to add a great big congratulations to Alex and his team for winning the Excellence Award.
Thank you.
Well done to you and your team. That's a big achievement and, shows your dedication.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Alex? Can I have a mover and a seconder of that report? Councillor Sherman and Councillor Wilmot. Those in favour say aye. Thank you. We move on to item 7.5 on page 65, Business and Strategy Report, and Justin's with us to answer any questions on this.
Just to go back to the landfills, Gravesend's finally fully operational as of today. It was closed, took longer, things kept catching on fire. but it's, now it was partially open to just general waste, but it's fully open again today. Just to follow up on the microchipping free day, that's looking like to be the 23rd and 24th of July, and we'll put that out through comms. They were just getting through pool inspections at the moment before they could tackle that one, so it's on the horizon. Another thing to note, just that Roxy cabling, just to, the Roxy now has full coverage within the building, but we're still fibre to the node, so if there's any events that, you've got 100 people sitting here on the public Wi-Fi, the free public Wi-Fi, it's still going to be slow, just for when that issue arises again, until they upgrade it. Otherwise, I'm happy to take questions on anything else in the report.
The interpretive segment of the classroom.
Yeah, I think it was looking like September to be done now. They've finally got a plasterer up there to be able to continue on. That was what was been holding most things up there for a while. They had one pull out, but they got a new one doing some works now.
What did they end up doing with the slab? Because it was all cracked and funny. Did they redo it or?
I think they had to put a
Topping. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Stitch work.
I'll get a weekly report about how this six is going, and I noticed in the report that was written, that said in Upper Morton that the lock and camera are working well. Well, since that report was written, someone stole the camera, and also the lock has been damaged. I think that in these remote communities, they don't understand how easy it will be to lose their ticket. We fight to keep them open because they're an essential service to remote communities. But if people keep on setting fires to these remote communities or doing things that make it more difficult for us to show that we're managing them correctly, they will lose the tips.
But is it people local to the area, or is it people coming from out of the area?
It may well be people coming from out of the area, but we don't
Suppose you
get
don't
any
know
support
with
from the
the
locals.
There was even North Star. There was a few of using the fence and that, and they're local.
Yeah, using the camera,
Yeah.
just so we got a good photo of them.
So you can see who they are. You
Yeah.
determine who they are.
Yeah, we can. Obviously, whoever stole the camera, maybe they needed the camera, I don't know, but it's more likely that they didn't want people to see what they were doing.
Some of the fires, are they potentially being caused by factories?
I think the one at Gravesend was, yeah, because they were in there moving stuff that day. But I know some of them are set fire by locals.
Yeah.
Self-compassion.
Yeah, some of the locals actually think they're doing us a favour by burning down the rubbish. They're not. Every time there's a fire, we've got to report it to the EPA, and it goes as a black mark against that location.
Yeah.
So is it possibly worth doing a little bit of a, do a video and put it on Facebook and let people know that, 3 things you shouldn't be doing at a tip, or, I don't know.
Yeah.
I always think of yes, it's happening, but what practical way can you do to let people know it's not good?
What about
And-
sign, use it properly or lose it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe if people, we can probably bring that up at all the community meetings too. If you know of somebody that's abusing them, there's a risk of losing them. Yeah. And people probably just don't realise what they're going to lose.
And the courts don't support us either. There was a case in Warrialda Rail where a resident of Warrialda Rail gave their access number to someone in Inverell, who then proceeded to dump asbestos into the Warrialda Rail tip. And we took them, or we fined them originally, and they challenged the fine. And the court let them off. So it's it's really annoying, basically, when that happens.
And then we've got like adjoining council, like we don't charge for our tips to go where adjoining councils charge, and to the south, like they have to pay and they're only open a couple of days. If we had to do that, people would be in an uproar. So I think we really need to get it out there, and especially at the community meetings, and just say how important it is if you want your chips. Any more questions on Justin's report?
How often do they cut the fences? Copper Creek rang up the other day and told me someone's cut the fence at the back of the...
Yeah, relatively regularly.
Is that to avoid the cameras, do you think, or...?
Or the code, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe just for fun. I honestly don't know what goes through their heads.
It's like all the mattresses being dumped at the gates.
Yeah, bring back the good old days when you could electrify the fence.
Release the hounds.
Oh, yeah, about vicious dogs in it,
Any more questions for Justin? Can I have a mover and a seconder of that report? Councillor Coleman and Councillor Collins. I was going to say Nick. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Thank you. We now move on to item 7.6 on page 93, which is Council's investment report, and Helen will take questions on this.
We're going to finish the year pretty strong financially. We will have money coming out for the last of the grant funded works that we're going to have completed, and make sure all those bills are paid so we can put the final claim in. But we have had significant money. We had $3 million. That's Transport New South Wales, wasn't that? $3 million?
Restart New South Wales.
And that was all our own money, so we've been carrying that for months. So yeah, now we're just cracking into getting ready for the financial year and do it all again.
Do we have any outstanding money for more this year?
Still being paid.
So they paid their last installment.
Yep.
The fourth one?
Not the fourth, the ones we've been chasing have all been paid. The last invoice wouldn't be due yet, I don't think, from Morey. It's 14 days, isn't it, with Helen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could I update that in confidential, please?
So yeah, so there's no overdue money owed on their last payment will come in, I think, in June.
Any more questions for Helen? Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Bishton and Councillor Sherman. Those in favour say aye. We now move on to item 7.7, Council Staff Housing, and this will be done by the General Manager. Any questions?
With the housing, where are we looking for?
We're looking at building a duplex in Morialda and a duplex in Wingra. The duplex in Morialda will be in the Queen Street area that a couple of weeks ago we resolved to finalise that in terms of the land title claim on it for the Aboriginal Moree local land council. So we're progressing forward on that. In the Wingra one, there is a lot in Moore Street that hasn't been sold, so we'll probably keep that and build a duplex on that. We'll be trying to seek grants as well, so it's a possibility that we won't be actually borrowing the total funds. If we can, we'll be offsetting some of the costs with grants, but it's becoming more and more difficult to employ people when they can't find housing. It's just as simple as that, which is becoming quite a problem.
What?
Oh, sorry, I was also going to say there is land over at the other side of the river that the council owns, which is now available because of the sewerage.
Which
What
might be a nice
is
spot.
the council doing with the house at Olive Perk Terrace?
Well, we are keeping that for the possibility of staff housing.
We're interviewing on Friday for 2 senior engineer positions, and we're hoping we can appoint at least one, and would offer that house as part of the package.
Any more questions on this?
For
Thoughts?
$400,000 a unit, would it be cheaper to buy a house in good condition in the town instead of?
Yeah, that doesn't increase the housing stock within the towns, but yeah, we could look at buying. But the problem is, there aren't too many $400,000 places in either Pinborough or Warialda that you would want to buy. I think we'll have it.
That don't need work on them.
Yeah. And one of the issues we're often finding, people often don't want to be worried by having a lawn or having any sort of garden or whatever. They just want a place to reside. That's been our experience with doctors.
And some seem strong.
Any more questions? Because this is quite an important one.
Well, I think more houses are needed. I think at that point.
So
One of the problems is our staff can't build dwellings. We can build commercial buildings, but for some reason the law says we can't build houses, so we would have to use an external body to build.
anyone's got some comments or thoughts, or whether we should go ahead, or what's...
Well, I think
given that we don't have a supply of stock housing that would meet a standard that prospective employees would be wanting, that if we're looking to attract people, we need to do this. It's affecting, I mean, I've had a call this week that I spoke to Alex about, do you know anywhere that a nurse at the hospital can rent? So we're feeling it. I'm sure both communities, major communities are feeling it. So I think that we really need to take some action to address that shortage of supply for our team members.
Thanks, Adrian. On the nursing too, they're hoping, don't forget there's that grant we've applied for staff accommodation in Warialda. So hopefully we get that as well. But yeah, any more comments on this?
I think
the report says it all really, and I think the lack of housing really goes to show that our shire is growing. So let's keep on moving and let's keep on growing and build the duplexes.
Thanks,
I agree.
Modular cheaper option or not?
You don't get much for 400,000 now.
They are. The last duplex we built in Warialda, we learned a lesson from that because we didn't accommodate a proper little laundry. But that was quite a nice little building, wasn't it? That was there. It's been used by doctors and nursing staff at the moment behind where the challenge, like in Oak Street, or Bunker Street.
They've come a long way, modular housing.
You know, we got to get them from that Armidale uni plan.
It's also quicker.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, so those in... can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crump and Councillor Wilmot. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
No objections? Okay, we'll move that report. Thank you. Okay, we move on to 7.8. Bingra Pottery Studio Section 355 Committee. And the General Manager will speak about this.
This is a group who have taken on the former Boy Scout law with Glider Oval, and they would like to manage it. It's sort of fallen into a bit of disrepair. it's had a, you know, it's been used by various different groups, including a biking scheme at one stage. So they would like to be a Section 355 committee, so they've got some management responsibility for the building, and I think that's a reasonable use of Section 355, which is designed to allow community groups to manage council facilities.
And I think I read too that they're going to not just do pottery, it's open to other craft ideas there. And they've painted it all and got it looking comfortable with lounges and things like that in it.
Would the committee have to have a council member on the committee?
You don't have to. It's up to the council if you want to have a councillor representative. Yeah.
Is that something that we want to do, or?
Has any councillor got a particular interest in pottery? Pottery. Yeah. But on that particular one, I think we make it compulsory to have a member on it.
Did you say, John, you'd like to be on it?
I'm surprised it looks so good because they brought 10 litres of brown paint and wanted me to turn it into orange for a charge. After trying for about 2 days, we gave up to sell them some paint. Donated paint it was.
The pictures I saw looked very good.
It looks good, yeah. Right.
I have a Facebook page.
Okay.
They're very keen. And I personally, I think it's really important to encourage and support key people within our community who want to provide a service. But they have 37 volunteers from memory that have indicated they're quite happy to participate.
Yeah.
And good to see an old building.
Yeah, so it's not the building, they've fixed up the building, it's not a building falling down sort of in the middle of a public eye because it's at the Oval.
And then new people have moved into town the last few years. Still able and willing, got a bit of energy.
Yeah. So, can I have a mover and a seconder for that report, please? Councillor Coleman and Councillor Crump. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We now move on to item 7.9, which is on page 101. Yeah.
This is finalising our plans of management for Crown Lanes. This is a generic one that covers a number of pieces of Crown Lane. We've been working through it for some time. It's been subject to public consultation. And more than happy to answer questions.
Does this include the active land in Royale that we agreed to earlier on to purchase?
Queen Street, yeah. This doesn't cover that. We're buying that in, fees as a parcel of land without encumbrances, so that we can develop it for housing.
That doesn't come in. It doesn't, or it does? Does not. Sorry, this does not include that?
No, it doesn't, sorry. That particular piece of land, I don't know if you know it, people in Morialba probably do it. There's a little laneway that runs from that land all the way through to the high school. It's actually, I think it's going to be, when we put it out there to market, I think it'll be quite a marketable area for residential development.
Oriel Heights, it's already got the claim.
I reckon it's a great idea.
We're about to settle on the Barunda land that we're purchasing as well. And Alex mentioned earlier, if we can locate a bore out there for the additional water for the town of Oriel, that will certainly give us the opportunity to expand the water recycle into the existing Warumba subdivision. When there was the drought, they really had quite, it had a severe impact on that subdivision. Because at the moment they rely on a bore that trickle feeds water, and I don't know whether they were tested, you know. That trickle feeds into a large tank and then runs down into all the relevant lots. I think that it would be great if they were on reticulated tank water. And also the land that we've purchased, depending on what the council wants to do in terms of the density, we have to go through a consultation process. But having water available there will increase the opportunity to have perhaps smaller lots sizes.
So any more questions on the draft plan of management? No? Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Coleman and Councillor Crispin. Those in favour say aye. Okay. We've moved on to item 7.10, integrated planning and reporting documents. Any questions on this?
There were no submissions, which I find amazing. But I can assure you, Councillor Collins, we aren't after a 30% rate increase. Just the 4.2 that we're about.
Feel better already, mate. As I'm sure everyone else in the room would.
Yeah. Okay, any questions? No questions?
Is our median age increasing? Our median age in your report, the people, compared to the last one. I don't know when we did our last report on page 116. We're an ageing shire, we keep saying we are, do the statistics prove that we are?
Yeah.
Okay, can I have
We're getting wiser as well.
Can I have a mover and a seconder of this report, please? Councillor Sherman and Councillor Wilmot. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Thank you. Now, would you like to have a break before confidential?
We'll do Councillor.
Oh, sorry, we'll move on to councillor reports first, and we'll go round the room. We'll start with Councillor Coleman.
Couple of things, probably one for you, Justin. Rob spoke at it again. Getting Tim a Coolantine so that they cleaned up his yard. When was that, back in March, I think, a bit, and he's.
Who was that, sorry?
Rob, he's in opposite the hotel in Coolantine.
Okay.
And he's getting tin, I've got a video of it, tin laying back up against the outside of his fence again. So, yeah, and I think Ray Poe rang me about it, and I think she got on with someone, I'm just not sure who, but yeah, just check on that.
How many times is this that we've cleaned it out?
Order.
Several has been, there's been an issue there as well as
He's been
I've
there.
been involved in the forming of
Gravel in front of the Coolantine Hall, so thank you to sort that one out. And just, if there's something we can do probably about the parking in North Star, where a lot of trucks are parking on it's quite substantial. But if we can, I just don't know how we approach it. They're pulling up and camping in front of probably the post office and the shop, you know, running air conditioners and things like that at night time, so that's not great for people that live right next door there. So I just don't know how we can look into some designated parking. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but
The federal government has a Safer Local Roads Infrastructure program, and part of it includes
truck
truck rest
Rest,
areas.
yeah.
There's a transit that closes on the 30th of this month, but one will open up straight away after that. Perhaps we can look at creating a designated area, maybe Montbright Creek, that grassed area there. It's about as expensive to build a car park as it is roads. It's not going to be a cheap exercise, but if it's a sustained issue that we can demonstrate has an impact, I think we might stand a fighting chance of getting a grant.
Yeah. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councillor Collins?
A couple of businesses in the main street of Warrigal have brought to my attention the rubbish in the main street in the gutters continuing to build up from the butcher shop down to Mitre 10 and from the petrol station down to the commercial hotel. And one took me to it and there is a build-up of rubbish in the gutters in the driveway in the Mitre 10 that's filled up with leaf matter and rubbish and whatever else. I was just concerned about the appearance it brings to the town when people drive down the street. Particularly now we have the new cafe and a lot of tourists are stopping there to eat, which is probably contributing towards the...
No doubt. As soon as this skid steer is finished in the CBD park, which will be quite shortly, we'll put the broom on and we'll address that.
Another Koala Park one, a suggestion for a QR code for donations. Apparently people are wishing to donate money, but people don't carry cash anymore. So if that was a possibility, they would like it considered.
Look it up, we don't take the money for that. That will see what we can do.
Speed signs or the speed things that you've got coming into Bingra near the coffee shop there, that smile or frown at you when you come in. Warrior, sorry?
They smile, do that.
I've only had smiling ones, Alex.
That's green.
Warrior Rail have requested if they could have a turn at such a set of...
Absolutely.
I reckon it's probably a good idea to do that.
Yeah.
Because a few of them are complaining about the speeds of people going through Warrior Rail.
They're portable signs and they're intended to
Go throughout the shop.
shuffle around the shop, so we can absolutely do that.
I went to a Warrior Historical Society meeting last night and they've asked me to get an update on their sign.
I will check with our sign writer.
Apart from that, I've got one other thing for the confidential meeting, but that's it. Thank you.
Just onto that rubbish, Mick, I was in Warrigalda on Monday and I was standing out the front talking to Adrian and he'd cleaned the street out the front of the shop and people just sit there and throw rubbish. Like there was just cigarette butts and rubbish that they were too lazy to put in the bin. So
That's a metre and a half away from them.
yeah, like it was just all over the place. So
Well,
it's
you've seen it then, it is an obvious issue.
yeah, but people have got to, like they want the shire to pick it up, but you've got to educate people. Like the shopkeepers had cleaned it and then they're sitting on the chair and throwing their rubbish.
I'll wait for it, it's fine.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, so some people have got to take responsibility of, imagine what their house is like. Anyway, thanks. Councillor Dixon?
Yes, is there any update on the caravan park and pool at Bingra?
Caravan Park, we're doing interviews tomorrow for the second one, and the pools we're looking like we'll have to put on a person, a supervisor for both Bingra and Warrigalda. We'll have to do some recruitment on that shortly.
So taking back the management of pools to council.
When do we start our community meetings?
I think Casey's finalising all those soon, she said about that for the next meeting. They were in last meeting where we went through and reviewed them and Casey's putting them all together.
Okay, yeah, that's all.
Councillor Crump, thank you. Councillor Wilmot.
Just two things though on the street cleanliness. Tiffany and I, or Mayor and I, discussed the relocation of the council chair that's next to the ATM outside IGA, that if we could relocate that chair to somewhere else, that would remove the gathering point of the people who sit there and smoke and drop their cigarette butts and buy food, and when they drop their food, they just wash it into the pavers. So if we were able to relocate that...
There's two more there, so it's not
going to... Yeah, there's two more chairs closer to Mitre 10, and nobody uses those. But I thought if we relocated the chair to being between the clock and my top driveway, where it sits in the sun in summer, they're not going to use it. Or at least just moves them away from the entrance point.
Yes.
Because unfortunately it's 4 metres from the front door, so they can sit there and smoke.
Yeah. And they were just sitting there smoking. The smoke and the cigarette butt smoke and the rubbish was atrocious. Really.
Yeah, same people. And the second one is I've had numerous people mention 20 Christie Street, Warialda to me in terms of the cleanliness of the property. Christie, which is over on the flat.
Okay.
Needing cleaning up.
Yes. I did a drive by myself.
Follow up on that one.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Crispin. Thank you. Councillor Bishton.
Not much. Sorry, but I did have a couple of residents request maybe the smiley sign, which is doing such a good job out there near Bavarian Mum. Other parts of the Shire may wish to have it, but up in front of the living classroom where people speed in.
Yep.
Apparently.
We may need to purchase another smiley sign.
Or, something like with a bit more aggressive.
An angry face. Not just a frowny face, an angry face.
Maybe one that throws things at people.
Spike strip.
Litter.
Right.
All right.
City 2 miles, something like that.
You're bloody terrible.
Is that all, Councillor Bishton?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Sherman.
I might just discuss something
Confidential, that's okay. Okay, do we want to, no, if there's nothing else, do you want to move that we go out of Committee of the Whole into confidential items? Councillor Bishton and Councillor Sherman, those in favour say aye. Now we'll move back into...
Yeah, Madam President, I've got some recommendations from the Committee of the Whole regarding the Confidential Organisation and Community Services report. The committee recommends that the report be received. In regards to the introduction of overseas nursing staff into Bingra and Warialda, the committee recommends that the Council approach Mr Brendan Moylan MP to offer the Council's assistance regarding the proposed overseas nursing staff being introduced into Bingra and Warialda. In relation to the Bingra Medical Centre, the Council recommends, or the committee recommends, that the Council increase the current guaranteed overdraft arrangement with the Bingra Medical Centre Board to $100,000 from the current $50,000.
Thank you. Before we close the meeting,
You need to move it.
Oh, can I have a mover and a seconder of that first? Councillor Wilmot and Councillor Crispin, those in favour say aye. Aye. Now, before we close the meeting, today's a very important day because it's Max's last meeting. Lots of laughs. And I just want to thank you, myself, from the last 9 years I've had the privilege of working with you and learning lots, and probably still learning lots. And you've been a real asset to the Shire and the community, and I want to thank you for all your work, and we're going to miss you, and we'll welcome Leah as our next GM next meeting. But we look forward to lots of lasts for you to celebrate. But we'll all miss you. Anyone else want to say anything?
Well, I'm certainly having lots of farewells. Lots of cake. I think that I can honestly say I've sincerely enjoyed all the years that I've been here, from Bingara through to Guida. The challenge of the amalgamation was one that I actually quite enjoyed, being able to introduce that. I think that also, I don't know whether elected people actually think like this or not, but it's a real privilege not only to be an elected person, but also to be an appointed senior staff member. For a start, you've got the ability to be recorded in historical documents that will exist forever, which are the council minutes. At some time in the future, there'll be a nerd that wants to do a study of the history of Guida, and they'll be poring over these minutes in about 20 or 30 years' time. So, don't lose face. You guys are part of history. It's a really important concept. You've been chosen by your peers to be in control of the destiny of the community, and it's not a task that should be taken lightly. And I think the senior staff would take their role in that not lightly either, do you? No. So, but I've enjoyed all the time I've been here, and I wish you all the very best. And thanks for your kind words.